Welcome back all to episode 9 of Mathghamhain Morsels. Simple is sexy, garlic bread and cheese bread. So, going to show you guys how to make one of the quintessential simple is sexy dishes, garlic bread, and then a slightly dressed up one, which is just cheese bread. Both of them absolutely delicious. The way that this starts is very simple. A good butter, so I'm using a sweet cream salted butter that I rather like. And to this, we're going to add some garlic. This is one of the steps that you can decide how much work you want to put into making this garlic bread. You can either buy the garlic, mince the garlic all by hand, and do it that way, or you can do what I'm doing, which is just get a pot of garlic, which you can find at pretty much any grocery store. It's absolutely fantastic. It's still garlic, just it's already minced, so you don't have to worry about it. So I'm using about 2 tablespoons of butter, and this rather large looking spoon is about a tablespoon, so it's bit more than a tablespoon. In fact, let me add just a little bit more. So like a heaped tablespoon of minced garlic. Now, just like the chimichurri episode started, where first step was to incorporate an ingredient in, same thing here. Similar process, only this time not using a mezzaluna. A mezzaluna would be a bit overkill in this, because this is soft butter that's been sitting out for a little bit. So all it takes is mashing around the butter and the garlic, folding it over, mashing it around a little bit, and you just want to get the butter fully, or the garlic rather, fully incorporated into the butter. That looks good. Now, this is the simplest garlic butter that you could possibly make. Garlic, butter, done. It'll taste delicious. But I like a bit more flavor in mine. This will still keep it nice and simple. So, next thing that I'm going to add, if you've watched a bunch of my other Mathghamhain Morsels, you've heard me talk about this before, some black garlic. Black garlic is absolutely delicious. Adds a nice umami taste as well as that beautiful garlic taste. So, going to add probably about half, and let's say about full teaspoon of black garlic. And then, same as with the garlic, you just kind of mash it in, mix it round, make sure that it gets entirely incorporated. And that doesn't take very long with soft butter. So, one more flip and mash should do it. There we go. And then, also, this, very simple. It's just garlics and butters. So, you can take this butter however you want to go. You can make a very Italian garlic bread by adding some oregano, some parsley, bit of thyme if you want. Absolutely fantastic. Beautiful flavors in that. You could go for something a bit more interesting, and you can make it a more Mexican-inspired garlic bread, at which point you would want to add cayenne pepper, some paprika, a nice smoked paprika, whatever other peppers you like to throw on to that. You can mix it in, slap that on your garlic bread, which I'll show you how to do here in a moment, and that is absolutely delicious. Really, you can take this however you want, use whatever herbs and spices you want to try to add. Garlic bread is a real beautiful vehicle for that. And you can even try different types of bread, so you could mix in some Mediterranean spices or some Middle Eastern spices, throw it on some pita bread, make garlic pita bread. That stuff's good. But I really like savory as a herb, and not enough things call for savory, so I'm going to add about a teaspoon of savory. And sweet basil goes rather well with savory, so I'm going to add about the same measure of sweet basil. And again, just mix this up. Make sure that all the herbs and spices that you use are nice and fully incorporated. This looks like it's already there. So now this is really soft, as you can tell from how easily it deforms. In order to let it firm up a little bit and let the flavors bloom a little bit more, what you want to do after you make any compound butter is move your butter to a container. This can be a Ziploc bag. This can be just wrapped in some cling film. Really anything. It can be Tupperware, or as I'm using, just a little metal vessel. If you're using acid, you probably want to steer away from metal unless, like this one, it's a good stainless. So just get all of that deliciousness into whatever you're going to be throwing it in, and then this is going to go into the freezer for a few moments just to set up. You can mix this up ahead of time. You can make a large batch of it, and all you do, mix up however much you want, let it cool down in the freezer, then you move it to the refrigerator, and you can keep it for a good long while just sitting in your refrigerator. Pull it out whenever you want garlic bread, or you can even use this to finish a steak or something like that. Absolutely beautiful little compound butter. Great vehicle for a lot of flavors. And just cut out how much you want for whatever you're doing. Good to go. Throw the rest back into the refrigerator. You can mix up just enough for what you're making. I've mixed this up now this is my third time, because my computer crapped out as I was trying to film this video the first time, which is why this one didn't hit last week. And then my audio was having issues the second time that I tried to record this, so this is the third recording, and hopefully everything worked. But I'll see you guys in a couple moments after this is chilled. Okay, so of course the next thing that you need after getting a really good compound butter for your garlic bread is a good bread. So I chose a nice, fairly crusty loaf of Italian. You can use whatever type of bread you prefer. You can use baguettes, you can use a brule, any type of bread that you want. So I'm just cutting this in half because this half is going to become my garlic bread, this half is going to become my cheese bread. Now then, I like my garlic bread nice and soft on the inside with a crispy skin. So what I'm going to be doing is going to be a little bit weird for some of you that like it crispy all around. So for me, I slice into this in about 3/4 inch to inch wide. I'd say that's about an inch wide slices. And just give that another slice, going almost all the way through, but not quite all the way through, leaving just a little bit connecting at the bottom. Then once I have that done on my garlic bread, as I said, I made the compound butter a couple times, so it ages a little bit as I went. I'm going to use the oldest because it is the most aromatic, and all the flavors have really had time to marry together. Compound butter is one of those things that ages beautifully, depending on what's in it. If you have something that doesn't age well, then it of course will cause the butter to go bad faster. But all of these ingredients, they can last a good while. So as it ages, the flavors just build on top of each other and build, marry together, and become absolutely beautiful. So this has a really herbaceous and garlicky smell to it. And then what I do is I just take a nice, generous portion of it, and I coat one side of each cut that I made. So just get that all in there, work down the garlic bread as you go, or the soon-to-be garlic bread, rather. If you didn't grab quite enough on a layer, just grab a little bit more. Smack it on. This is something that really depends on how buttery you want your garlic bread. If you want it a little bit less buttery, a little bit less garlicky, tailor it to your taste. If you want it more buttery, add more butter. If you want it more garlicky, add more garlic. But just keep on going down the line, smearing this absolutely beautiful compound butter into each of the slits that you made. And that little end piece I'm gonna also butter. That way this will be the one area that I cut that gets buttered from both sides. Okay, so there we go. Just kind of give it a slight squeeze. Then, because like I said, I want this really tender on the inside, really soft, but a nice crust on it. The way that I start with this is tore through the bottom a little bit. That's perfectly fine. I wrap this in some tin foil. The tin foil will prevent it from having too much of the moisture in it evaporate out, and it protects the crust a little bit until I'm ready to have the crust really start browning. So I'm going to toss this into a 400-degree oven and let it bake for a few minutes. You can check it every now and then. You want to see that the butter's completely melted. When the butter's completely melted and it's nice and hot all the way through, then you just peel back the foil, expose the top of the bread, stick it back in the oven for a couple more minutes, just so you get a nice crunchy top. Nice crunchy crust on top. It's absolutely amazing that way. So this is going to go into the oven, and let me quickly toss that in, and then I'll be right back to slice down this piece of bread. And as I said, one bit of bread was just going to become garlic bread. The other bit is going to become a cheese bread. So for the cheese bread, I'm going to be using some sliced mozzarella. It's one of my favorite cheeses to use for this. Though, again, this is something that you can tailor to whatever type of cuisine you want to have your garlic bread with. So if you want this to be with a more Mexican flavored dish, more Latin American, then you can use a different type of cheese. You want something that has a fairly high moisture content and will melt beautifully. If you're making a traditional stew, then I recommend using the same herbs that you'll use in the stew in your garlic butter. And then if it's like a English stew, or an Irish stew, then use some cheddar cheese. That'll be absolutely amazing. But this one's just going to be a mozzarella tonight. So this time I cut all the way through the bread. Didn't leave any bottom because for cheesy bread I want to have plenty of room, because each of these slices of bread, which I again cut into about 1 inch thick slices of bread, is going to get hit with a nice slice of mozzarella. And you don't want it to all get gummed together as it's baking, so you need to have the surface area. Also, this benefits a little bit more, in my opinion, from having one side that gets a bit crispy as it bakes up. And as the cheese melts, and if you can get a little bit of coloration on the cheese, ooh, that makes it even better. Sometimes I'll even throw it back under a broiler for a couple seconds just to get that added bit of coloration on the cheese. So just butter up again with a nice generous bit of butter on every slice. And then I have my mozzarella here. So one nice slice of mozzarella on that one, a good one on that one, another one there, there. And these, I'm going to give my other garlic bread a little bit of time before these go in, but I'm just going to throw these onto a baking sheet, just like this, maybe a little bit more room. And they're going to also go into a 400-degree oven until the cheese is nice and ooey gooey, kind of dripping around. And like I said, you can either bake it to get some color, or if you want the color, you can throw it under a broiler or a salamander, something like that. Really, you don't need the color, so if you don't feel like waiting for it, once the cheese is melting and delicious, just grab it out and go to town on it. It is fantastic. So I'll be back with the finished dishes in a little bit. Okay, so here we are back with the breads fresh out of the oven. I got a little bit impatient, so they didn't get the best coloration on the cheese, but you still see a little bit of nice coloration. But it is still fantastic. It just means that the cheese didn't really caramelize any. That hot cheese, the butter that's melted down, kind of soaked into the bread. The very strong garlicky flavor, the herbs, all just blend together amazingly. And it has a nice little crust to it that I can even wring my fork off of. Absolutely delicious. And the just standard garlic bread, that's what it looks like on the inside. Nice and crusty on the outside. But still soft and fluffy on the inside. Just how I like it. And again, that fantastic garlic flavor carries through along with the herbs that I mixed in. It's fantastic. Like I said, this is a quintessential simple, sexy dish because I can't think of a single person, unless they have celiac disease or something like that doesn't love some garlic bread. And with that, I think this is a good point to end the video. Have a good one all. And I should leave off with the standard of experiment. Try different things. Make this garlic bread. And make it in a nationality, as far as the spices, that you wouldn't think for garlic bread to be in. Experiment. Try different flavors. See if it tastes good that way. Make it with stews and stuff like that. It's an insanely simple thing to make your own. So, have at it. Have fun. Enjoy this delicious bread. Bye all.